And welcome back to the Football Terrace. Thank you so much for tuning in. Hit like buttons, share buttons, retweet buttons. Make sure as well, by the way, you touch that little bell that you subscribe. Go click the bell notification button right now. Found out today only 13% of people that don't have notifications turned on get told that we go live. If you've got the notifications on, you'll know instantly. So please get that done. We're here to talk Chelsea. We're here to talk Kai Havertz. There has been a development. First and foremost, Kai Havertz has officially informed Bayer Leverkusen that he is leaving, that he wants to leave. Please get the deal done. Get me out of here. I don't want to play here next season. Thank you very much. Toodle pip. Auf Wiedersehen. Get me out of here. He wants to join Chelsea. That is his primary target. That's where he wants to go. Above Bayern Munich, above Liverpool, above anywhere else, he wants to go to Chelsea. That, in my opinion, is big news. That, in my opinion, it must be amazing news to Chelsea fans to see things along those lines. It must be. It must be absolutely brilliant news to see that. However, deals have still got to be agreed. Chelsea, on the other hand, have informed Leverkusen that they are willing to pay. They've agreed to pay an £80 million fee for the player. At the moment, Leverkusen are still trying to get things to £90 million plus. So there is about a £10 million differential between the two. However, what Chelsea have in their favour, and massively in their favour, is that Kai Havertz is putting in the transfer request. And at the moment, it doesn't appear that very many other teams are doing the rounds to try and sign him, because Lampard and co have convinced him to come to Chelsea. It puts the Stamford Bridge outfit in a very, very commanding position indeed. It truly, truly does. However, I want to delve into this. I want your opinions. I want your views. I want to know what you're thinking and feeling in relation to this. To read some of the article to you here, it says Kai Havertz has handed in an official transfer request at Bayern Leverkusen this summer, with Chelsea ready to pay 100 million euros. Sorry, up to 90 million euros for the player. The 21-year-old has attracted interest from several clubs across Europe following his impressive performances in the Bundesliga. Chelsea and Liverpool are both interested in the midfielder, but the newly crowned Premier League champions have been put off by Leverkusen's high valuation. And that's also key here. Like, Chelsea want to get this done this summer. And that's the one thing that's helping Bayern Leverkusen here from a negotiating standpoint. Because Liverpool have made it abundantly clear that they're not going to sign anybody. Liverpool have made it abundantly clear that, dare I say, they don't have the money and they're not prepared to put the club at risk financially. And there is a risk of spending money. Liverpool have the cash, but the reason why there's a risk of spending money at this point is very, very simple. And I'll see what that is. If there is a second wave, if there is another suspension to the season, as we saw, that could have hugely detrimental effects on clubs. They could lose between 100 and 200 million pounds of income. Liverpool's position is this: we're the best team in the world, so we don't need to strengthen at this stage. We don't want to risk the club financially in case there is a second suspension. If there's a 3, 4, 5 month gap again in football, or a longer gap than we already saw by a couple of months. Chelsea are in a different situation. They want to try and catch the league leaders. They want to slip in now and say, right, if Liverpool aren't going to strengthen, there's a possibility that Man City are going to go backwards if this ban happens and takes place. What I'm going to do is go out there and spend big, buy good quality, and try and catch things up. There's risks to Liverpool strategy and there's risks to Chelsea strategy. But where Liverpool being interested and what Bayern Leverkusen are hoping for is that they can hold on to the player for as long as possible and make Chelsea nervous that if they don't sign him this summer and Liverpool come knocking next year, Liverpool may be the more attractive option. And that's what's so amazing about contract negotiations, sales negotiations, vendor buyer negotiations, is things, they're like a hair's breadth apart sometimes of going from in one direction or another. Blue here, Blue FT219 says, I think if we currently look at the situation with the pandemic situation, Chelsea are the only team in Europe that who have the balls enough to do this kind of transaction. And I almost agree with you to an extent. I think it's about position. If Chelsea were the best team in England, I don't think you'd be looking at making these signings. It's the fact that you're not, and you're looking to become the best again, that you're going out there and doing it. But that's great for you. That is the most amazing news for Chelsea and your supporters. There's no doubt about it. But I think Chelsea will get it done. The negotiations are just at a very tender stage. Chelsea are saying £80 million maximum. Of course, there's a year or so remaining, a couple of years, remaining on Kai Havertz's deal. So if you wait until next summer, even if you get Liverpool into a bidding war with you, are you guaranteed more than £80 million? Not too sure. From Chelsea's point of view, though, are they willing to take that risk? You know, are they willing to take the risk of missing out on this individual? That is what these negotiations come down to. Chelsea won't want to pay over the odds, but they won't want to miss out. It's at a really tender stage. I think we'll get a resolution in the next couple of weeks. I really do. And Chelsea are still massive, massive favourites to sign. By the way, I would say the power is in Chelsea's majority in Chelsea's position. I would say 70 to 30 in my very humble opinion. Another super chat here from Andrew says, can Havertz be Chelsea's Kevin De Bruyne in the 4-3-3? Yes, he could. He could. That could be. He could do that. He could do that. I don't see him as an 8, though. I see him more as an out-and-out attacking midfielder if you go by where he's played. But maybe Chelsea have the designs. Maybe Lampard thinks he can turn him into more of a number 8 style player, somebody that's more versatile across the central midfield areas. He's young enough, though. He's young enough to adapt. It isn't like he's a 28-year-old who's only ever played one position in his entire career. So maybe there's some room for what you're talking about there. Maybe there is indeed. It's a really good question. He's definitely talented enough to be able to convert. Shane here says, where will Chelsea fit in all their players like Callum Hudson-Odoi, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Mason Mount, and others? Some will be on the bench, and some of these young fledgling players at Chelsea over the next 2 years won't be there anymore. It's fairly plain and obvious and simple to me. That's what will happen. That is literally what will happen. Some will stay, some will become rotation, and by the way, some will emerge. Some of the young players at Chelsea will take this as a sort of, okay, you're bringing in somebody that's supposedly better than me. I'm going to raise my game. And that's got to be what Chelsea fans are looking for. Chelsea fans are going to want. That's if you know someone's got minerals. You know, we were talking the other day about maybe Rashford misses out if Sancho comes in and balls, and if Greenwood keeps progressing, Rashford misses out. Cool. The only time that situation will annoy me is if Rashford doesn't have the mentality to work even harder to get better. I don't care which of those 4 starts, as long as they're the most informed guys or their tactics are right. You know, for me, it isn't about, I don't have a preference on player. I have a preference on a strong squad. I really do. Ziyech, Werner, Kai Havertz, Pulisic would be the best 4 on paper, but it doesn't mean that Mason Mount, it doesn't mean that Tammy won't elevate themselves. Do I think that will happen with those 2? Probably not. But who knows? I could be completely wrong. This could maybe be what Hudson-Odoi needs. Hudson-Odoi might need that competition. 12 months ago, it looked like there was a free run of Hudson-Odoi becoming the main guy on the right or the left. Now, not so much. But maybe that's a good thing for him. Maybe that's what he needs. A comment here from one of our members says, why didn't they sell Hudson-Odoi to Munich? Have to piss us about, don't they? Listen, because Chelsea was sensible as well. They signed him onto a long-term deal. If they went to sign Callum Hudson-Odoi now, they might even get more money for him with the length of contract that he's on. That could truly be the reason as to why. Tammy's got more goals than Martial this season. No, Martial's got 20 goals in all competitions. I think Tammy's got 17. So, yeah. So, yeah. Again, no salt, just facts. As far as I'm aware, I'm just going to go and check now. In case I've missed something. But no, I believe that, yes, it's the way around I said it. I think. I could be wrong. I'm sometimes wrong. I swear Martial's got 20 and Tammy's got more than that, less than that. Let's have a little look here. Martial this season played 38 games in all competitions, and he has scored 20 goals. Tammy Abraham has played 42 games this season. So he's played 4 games more. He's played 2,692 minutes. So he's played around 200 minutes more than Martial. Martial has 3 more goals than him. So there we go. There we go. Premier League wise, Martial's played 27 games and he's got 15 goals. And it's 32 games for Tammy with 14 goals. So he hasn't scored more. He actually hasn't scored more league goals than him either. So I'm not too sure where you're getting that from, Killer. But what you've said is completely and utterly not true. And it isn't his first season in the Premier League before anybody shouts it out as well. He's played 2 seasons in the Premier League, Tammy, and he has nearly 180 games in his career. Martial is older, there's no doubt. And if you want to say he's doing better for his age, we can have that debate. But he hasn't scored more goals than him. That was the claim that was being made there, Killer Tomato. But I have no idea why you're bringing up Anthony Martial when we're talking about Kai Havertz coming to your team. It almost makes no sense. Salvio here says, if Lampard remains manager, our young English players will remain. What do you think? I think some will move on. If you look at now, I'll always make you a promise. If we look at Tammy, Mason Mount, Gilmore's not English, but we'll throw him into that mix. Loftus-Cheek, Tomori, Reece, James, 6. In 2 years' time, at least 2 of those players will not be at Chelsea anymore. Either directly or loaned out, they won't be here anymore. At least 2 of those players, in my very humble opinion. Let's do Kai Havertz. Played deeper at the start of the season. Look at his first 12 to 14 games this season. Kai Havertz in his entire career has only played 10% of his 200+ games in a deeper role. He's played over 60% of them in a number 10 role. There's about 20% of his games he's played on the right and the remainder are up front. He has no pedigree of playing as an 8 or as playing in central midfield. The vast majority of his creative statistics and his goals, which is one of the reasons why people love him, come from advanced positions. Does that mean he will not be changed into that position? No. Is it something we can prove he'd be good at? No. We'll have to wait and see. He hasn't played in that role before. So on a 10% of his games have been played in that position. He's played more games in that position as a winger than he has as a central midfield player. And you're not sure. Yeah, it makes no sense to me when people say that. It makes no sense. Let's do a few more questions here. Terry, you said that Martial was better than Martial. Do you mean? Yeah, no, I said Martial was better than Timo Werner, and I stand by that. And next season you will see. Next season you'll see why. Next season you will see Martial do the business in the Premier League and outscore and outperform him. There's no doubt in my mind. He had a brilliant year, 35 goals, no doubt. But trust me, and I've said this about I think Sancho is an amazing talent. I expect his numbers to drop when he comes into the Premier League slightly, 15-20%. Why? Because the Bundesliga is easier than the Premier League. So there we go. It really is. Like I watched it quite a lot after lockdown. It was poor. Auto man's scoring. So he's top class player, Werner. So I'm not saying he's a poor player or a stat packer or flat track bully. I'm simply stating that Martial is better than him. Martial next season will prove himself to be a more prolific goal scorer as well. You know, Werner's played in teams that have been more together than Man United's have in recent years. Plus, it's only his first year back as playing as a number 9, 20 goals for him. He missed out quite. I mean, you've got talking about Timo Werner this season has played 1,000 more minutes than Martial due to Martial injury as well. So look, as I say, and Man United still finding their feet at the beginning of the season, getting ready into the new systems. So they're mitigating factors. By next year, like I have no doubt in my mind. What I will do is look at the goals per minute ratio, which gives you an idea. So Anthony Martial, it's 20 goals divided by 2,400 minutes, right? So that's that's not the best way around of doing it. We'll do it the other way around. We'll do the minutes first. 2,400 minutes divided by 20 goals. So that's a goal every 120 minutes across all competitions. If we look at Timo Werner, Werner's will be better, but I'm not sure by how much. 3,390 minutes. Divide that by 35 goals. That's a goal. That's really good. A goal every 96 minutes. So when you consider that Timo Werner had no injury and is playing in a team that was in a better position in relation to playing better football for the majority of the season compared to United that was stumbling, you know, there's only a 14%, there's only a 14-minute difference in between their goals. Do I think that Anthony Martial can make that up next year? Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. You know, no doubt in my mind can he do that? You know, I really think he'll be fine in relation to doing that. I really, really do. I really do. I've got no real concerns about that whatsoever. None whatsoever. Let's do some more of your live comments, though, because that's what I'm most interested in. Werner's streets ahead of Martial. Well, that's the thing. You're saying streets ahead. Again, I haven't said that Martial is streets ahead of Werner. I haven't disrespected Werner by saying he's an average player. I've still said he's elite. The whole he's streets ahead thing, that's like a sign of disrespect. And when people exaggerate their point, it leaves me with an underlying feeling that you don't truly believe what you're saying. Just leaves me with a little feeling deep down inside that you don't truly believe what you're saying. Just slightly. You know, and if we look at the minutes per game ratio again, as an example, just want to work this out for a second. So 20 goals divided by 2,400 minutes. If you times that by the same amount of minutes, look at that. So if Martial's goal scoring rate, if he would have played the same amount of minutes not because of injury as Timo Werner, he'd be on 28 goals right now. Now, that's still a little bit behind him, but he's also playing in a more superior league. And playing in a team that for the first 5 months of the season wasn't really firing on all cylinders. So, like, do I have any concerns? No. And am I worried? No. By the way, do I think Timo Werner's a bad player? No, I think he's excellent. I think he's excellent. You say he's so inconsistent. He's 14 minutes more inconsistent. So he scored currently this season, he scored a goal every 120 minutes across all competitions. Timo Werner scored a goal every 96 minutes. So Timo Werner has been more consistent than him in terms of the goal scoring this season, but you're not talking by a massive margin. Timo Werner's not scoring a goal a game. You know, if Martial would have played as many minutes at the same consistency rate right now, he'd have 28 goals. Okay. So if a player would be on 28 goals right now in all competitions this season, how is that an inconsistent goal scorer? And that we're looking at minutes per game. How's that? I don't see how that's inconsistent. If Martial would have played as many minutes as Werner this season, and the only reason he didn't was because of injury, and scored at his goal rate, he'd have 28 goals. How many players in the top? How many strikers are at that are scoring at that ratio in the top 5 leagues? I bet you there's no more than 15 that are scoring at that ratio. And then what we were also told is there's more to a striker's game than just their goal scoring. But suddenly with Martial, that doesn't count. Suddenly, like with Firmino can do everything but score and he's amazing. Martial doesn't score enough. That's it. He's trash. And that's the point I'm making. You can think Werner's better than Martial. I've got no concern with that. But again, what I pull on is people that say so-and-so is streets ahead of him. Well, with factual statistics, you're wrong that he's streets ahead of him. And then anecdotally and situation-based, there's no evidence of that either. You're presenting a very biased hypothesis as a fact, and there's a major issue with that, but there we go. And again, none of you are coming with anything that's like, you can say that Werner's better, cool. But if anyone says he's streets ahead, you've got to explain it. And not one of you has presented a valid argument that makes any sense. You just say, Terry, please stop. That's not an argument. That's not an argument. Why am I banging on about stats? Because the same people that tell me that Werner's streets ahead of Martial give me stats as their backup. So I'm just looking at the stats in more intricate detail. That makes sense. It doesn't make sense. I'll give you an example. It's likely this season that quite a few, like, you got to think. So you look at Mbappe this year. He's having a good season. But you know that there's going to be lots of players potentially across Europe that end up outscoring in this season. And you know why, right? Because the French league was cut short. So if he hasn't played the same amount, like, he scored 18 goals in just 20 games, 30 in 33 games across all competitions. Example being, by the end of this campaign, you could have some players out there that are on 35, 40 goals. Oh, I would score more than Mbappe this year. It's not a fair comparison because he hasn't played the same amount of minutes. So stats show you some part of the story, but you need to delve into them deeper. That's why we're looking at the stats here. That's why we're looking at them. Someone here says, Tony and Timo are about the same. Why the debate? Bro, and I agree with that. I agree with that in the sense of, I think some people will say Martial's better. Some people will say Timo Werner's better. Where I will disagree with both groups of people is if you say Martial is streets ahead of Werner, or if you say Werner is streets ahead of Martial. That's just ridiculous. Like, Martial is streets ahead of Neil Maupay. Werner is streets ahead of, I'm just going to think of a striker, J. Rodriguez. That's a streets ahead comparison. That's the point here. But people lose that. People lose sight of it. And what they do is, like, oh, Terrace, Martial's so much better than Werner. No, I just said I would pick him over him. That's where this all started from. Go back to the original framing of the question. Just do that, man. There we go. It's a pointless argument. Well, it's not a pointless argument if somebody asks me who my preference is. What the pointless argument is when people say that somebody's streets ahead and then I prove them wrong. That's what it comes down to. Listen, everyone, do me a favor. Hit the like button. Please hit the share button as well. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we'll see you all soon.